Now, how to multiply fractions? The rules are like this. Write a numerator of the two fractions together as a product. Do the same with the denominator. Simplify both before multiply if it's possible. And then, when you are ready, multiply across. So when you multiply 2/3 by 4/5, you write to numerator value one underline as a numerator and the 3 times 5 as a denominator, and then you multiply each other. So 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 5 is 15. You do not reduce any of the factors because there is no common factors. By example 2, when you multiply 3/5 times 5/4, you write down 2 numerator, 3 times 5 on the top, and write down the 2 denominator, 5 times 4 in the bottom. But because they have 5 and 5 as common factor, one on numerator, one on denominator, you can cancel it out. You leave with 3 on the top and 4 in the bottom. So final result becomes 3/4. Okay. Now, number 3, 10/15 times 6/13. Again, you can write a 10 as a 2 times 5 and 15 as a 3 times 5. So before you combine them, you cancel out common factor first. So you end up with a 2 and 3. And then you rewrite 6 as a 2 times 3 and 13 as a 13. Now you found out that there is a common factor, 3 and 3, and 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. If you cancel out, what left over is 2 and 2 and 13, 1 and 13, because they all cancel out to the 1 when you reduce common factors. So you have a 2 and 2 as a 4 and 13, so you end up with a 4/13. Again, when you have 6/10 multiplied by 2018, so 6/10 multiplied by 2018, you write 6 in prime number multiplication and 10 as 2 times 5. And you can cancel out 2 and 2. And 20 as 2 times 2 times 5. And 18 as 2 times 3 times 3. Now, how would you do that? Well, you write out factor trees. 20 is 2 times 10, so 2 is common factor. 10 is 2 times 5, so that's how you got 2 times 2 times 5. And 18 as a factor tree, even numbers, you have a factor of 2 and 9 and 3 and 3. So you have a 2 times 3 times 3. And then you reduce these 2 and you end up with a 10. And this 5 and this 5 cancel out, and this 3 cancel out. Oh, many things has been canceled out. So you're left with a 2 here, and you're left with a 3 here. So this is a proper way of multiplying it. Another way is you multiply just without the reducing it. So 6 times 20 is 120, and 10 times 18 is 180. And then you try to reduce at the end, and you end up with a 12 and 18, and 3 times 4, 3 times 6. 4 with 6 is 2 times 2, and 2 times 3. So you end up with the same way, even though you are using different way. Well, it's up to you. I prefer you to start with this way, writing each number in terms of a multiple of prime factorization. But if you're comfortable with the other way, you are more than welcome to do that as long as the way is valid. Now, example here. 3 times 3 over 5 and 4 over 7. There is none of the number has a common factors. You just write down across, which is 12 out of 35. Second one, 3 is okay, but 20 you have to break by 2 times 5 as a 20, and 16 as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, with a 9 as 3 times 3. And then you reduce any common value on the top and bottom. You're left with a 5 on the top, and you're left with 2 and 2 and 3. So you end up with 5 out of 12. Okay. Next one, I'm going to try another way. 5 times 10, 15 times 24. So you end up with 80 out of, ooh, big number. So I better break down then the other way. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. 10 is 2 times 5. 15 is 3 times 5. 24 is 2 times 24. Quickly is 2 times 12. 12 is 2 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. So it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. So when you do that, you get 3. 3 cannot cancel out. So you have 3 2's cancel out this 3. You end up with 10 out of 15, and 3 is 45. 5 and 5 cancel out. So you end up with a 2 with 3, 2/3. No, you had a 3 there, right? So 3 and 3. So 2/9. Now, well, let's look at it the other way. What was 8 times 10 then? 8 times 10 is 80. Now I'm going to this time multiply 15 times 24, which give you 360. So it's 80 out of 360, but 0, 0 cancel out. So you have 8 out of 36, and 80 is 4 times 2 out of 4 times 9. So you end up with 2 9s. So it's up to you. Both one end up with the 2 9s. Okay. The last one would be 56 times 90 out of 15 times 28. Now I'm going to use different way. I know that 28 goes once and 28 goes 56 twice. Wow. How do I know that? Intuition. Now 15 goes 15 once, 15 goes 6 times. How do I know that? Intuition. So 2 times 6 over 1 times 1, you got 12 out of 1, which is 12. So if you do many math, then you can get some kind of intuition now. Okay. Now if you do, that's okay. So now let's get into chapter 6, how to divide a fraction. Multiply fraction, you just multiply across. So A over B times C over D. Then A and C goes on up top, B and D goes on the bottom. That's multiplication. Making sure you reduce it if there is any common factor. But the division is almost like a multiplication. In fact, we are changing it to multiplication by changing the second fraction to its reciprocal, 2 to its reciprocal, and then multiply the fraction. So what you do is like this. Whenever you have a fraction, you actually change this fraction into multiplication, and then you put reciprocal on the second one, which means upside down on the second one. So that's the cost that you have to pay when you change the division operator into multiplication operator. And now they become bona fide official multiplication. So you end up with a just multiply across because you don't have any common factor to reduce. So 21 out of 20 is the final answer for this. How about the second one? How about 5, 6 divided by 2/3? That, again, you change it to multiplication by flipping the second one only. So you leave the first one, first terms, as it is, but change it, the division into multiplication, you change this one into reciprocal, which is upside down. And then you write the numerator together and denominator together. Then I can see 3 goes 3 once, 3 goes 6 twice. So you end up with a 5 times 1 with a 2 times 2, which is 5 out of 4. Okay. Now, what if you have integer, like 2, divided by 2? Then all you have to do is change that integer into 2 over 1. Okay, because any integer is over 1. Like 5, if you want to change it to fraction, it's 5 over 1. If you have a 13, that's same as 13 over 1 in fractional format. So now you are dividing 15 over 18th by 2 over 1, which means 15 over 18th multiplied by 1 over 2. Because when you change the division into multiplication, you have to reciprocal, which means upside down on the second term. So you end up with a 15 times 1 with a 18 times 2. 15 times 1, but there is some common factors because 15 is 3 times 5, 18 is in terms of 3 times 6. So you can reduce 3 and 3 out. You end up with a 5 and 1 on the top as a numerator, 6 and 2 in a denominator. So this ends up with 5 out of 12. So that's one way of doing it. Now the explanation is showing another way, which is the regular way. Change each term into multiple prime factorization. And then you reduce them and you do that. So whichever you want to do it, you can do it. Okay. Now the number 4, what if you have 5 divided by 5/3? So you change this fraction into, integer into fraction, divided by 5/3, which is 5 over 1 multiplied by 3 over 5. Because changing the operator, you have to flip the fractions. So you end up with a 5 and 3, 1 and 5. This 5 cancel out. You end up with 3 over 1, which is 3. So this is same way as the explanation is giving to you. Now, everybody do some exercises. See if you can do that on your own. Okay. By the way, the answer key for each exercise is the bottom of the end of each section. So you can check your answer with the bottom of end of each sections. Now the next topic, how to add and subtract fraction with a common denominator. Okay. So when you have addition and subtraction with the same denominator, that's easy. You make them into a one denominator because they are common. They are same. And the numerator, you only do the operation of numerator. So you end up with a 5 over 9. Same thing in the subtraction. When you have a 7 over 8 minus 2 over 8, common denominator is 8. You only do the numerator. So you end up with a 5 over 8. That's how they did it here. Again, when you add 5, 6 with a 4, 6, you only put one denominator, common denominator, and 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 over 6. And 9 over 6 can be reduced to 3 over 2, because 9 over 6 is same as 3 times 3 divided by 3 times 2. 3 cancel out, 3 over 2. Same thing goes with subtracting a common denominator. So 712 minus 512 is 7/5 divided by 12, which is 212. 212 can be reduced to 2 times 1. Can be rewrite to 2 times 1 with a 2 times 6. 2 and 2 cancel out. You end up with 1/6. So adding and subtracting with a common denominator, which means same denominator, is very, very easy. Okay. So I want you to try these 4 questions. See if you can handle it. And check your answer with the answer key at the bottom of each section. Now, when you add or subtract with a common denominator, same denominator was very easy. Now, when you add or subtract different denominator, you have to know a couple of steps of how to do that. One of the most important steps is finding least common denominator, finding LCD. So least common denominator. So in short, we call LCD. Now, to add, subtract two fractions, you must have a common denominator, like we had it before. If denominator fractions are not same, you have to make the denominators equal. So make an equivalent fraction by using least common denominator. The least common denominator, LCD, is the smallest number that both denominators can evenly divide into. So be able to find LCD is very important. Okay. Now, there are shortcuts to find LCDs. There are 3 cases of finding LCD. Isn't it nice we only have 3 cases instead of 10 cases? Yeah. So 1, if there is no common factor between 2 denominators, then LCD becomes just product of 2 numbers, multiplication of 2 numbers. So LCD of 3 and 4 is 3 times 4, 12, because 3 and 4 do not have common denominators. LCD of 2 and 5, there is no common denominator between 2 and 5, or no common factor between 2 and 5. So you multiply just each other. 2 times 5 is 10. So which means, let's say you have a 1/3 plus 1/4. You can change everything in terms of 12. Okay, that's what they are saying. In here, number 2, if you have like 1/2 plus 2/5, you change each one in terms of tenths. and then you do the operation. That's what they are saying here. So like this common denominator is 4 and 7 is 28, which means let's say you have 3/4 plus 1/7. You change each one into 28th because common denominator is 28. When you need to find the LCD of 3 and 8 is 24. So finding LCD when there is no common factors, most simple one. You just multiply just two numbers that become your LCD. That become a denominator that you want to convert each one and as a equivalent fraction. Now, second type or second case. One number is multiple of the other number, then LCD become bigger number. So if you see LCD of 2 and 4, as you know, 4 is a multiple of 2, which means 2 can go into 4 evenly. Then LCD become 4. So when you have 1/2 plus, let's say, 3/4, you can convert each of them in fourth. That's what they are saying. Now, if you have a 3 and 9th, let's say you have a 1/3 plus 2/9, then LCD become 9th. Because 3 can go into 9 evenly, and bigger number is 9. So LCD is 9. Let's say if you have a 1/6 with minus, let's say 5/6. Minus 1/18. They want you to convert each one in terms of 18 because 6 goes into 18 completely. So they want to express in terms of 18 and then simplify them. When LCD of 9 and 36 it becomes 36. So let's say 5/9 minus 2/36. They want you to change into both in 36 because you cannot add or subtract without the same denominator. Okay, so you're finding LCD, which is a common denominator, least common denominator, which is the smallest common denominator. Now, third type of finding a denominator. If there is a common factor between two numbers, then find the LCD by either prime factorization or division method. Division method is the one that I use all the time because it's simpler. Division method sometimes we call cake method because it looks like a cake later on, layer of cakes. You might learn the finding a LCD by prime factorization, so I'm not going to pay attention too much on that. But let me introduce by division method or cake method. Divide each number by largest common factor if possible. Write down result of the factors. If there are more than two factors, not all factors share the same common factor, then pick two numbers that do share the common factor and bring the third one down to the next step. Then divide the two numbers by the common factors. For example, 2 out of 3 factors share the common factors. I will explain more detail on this. Continue with the process until no 2 factors share the common factor other than 1, and multiply remaining factors by common factor together. So for example, they want to find out, let's say 1/8, let's make it 3/8 minus 1/10. Then denominator is different, so you cannot subtract them. So you have to find out common denominator. You have to change each fraction into common denominator, equivalent fraction of with the common denominator. So the way you find the LCD is you write the number and write a division sign like this and divide by prime number that can go into common factors. So 8 and 10 is both even number, so I know we have 2 as a common factor. And then you actually divide each one by 2 and write under it. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I'm going to write a 4 here. It takes some time. Okay. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. And they don't have any more common factors. So LCD become 2 times 4 times 5, which is 40. So that means you're converting each one in terms of 40. So find the equivalent fraction with the LCD. So find the LCD of 14 and 21. So 14 and 21 has 7 as a common factor. So 14 divided by 2, 7 is 2. 21 divided by 7 is 3. And no more common factor other than 1 on this level. So you multiply 7 with a 2 with a 3, which is 42. So this is how you find the LCD by using a division method or cake method. Now here comes the when you have more than 2 numbers. 3 numbers, but they don't have common factor for all 3 of them. Then, as they explain in number 2, you do only 2 at a time. Okay, so 9 and 15 and 20, first common factor would be 3. Okay, so 9 divided by 3 is 3, so you write 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5, you write 5. But 20 do not have a common factor of 3, so you just write 20. Okay, so you don't divide at all, you just write it. As long as you do 2 of them, it's fine. Now you have common factor, not all 3, but 5 and 20 as a 5 as a common factor. Obviously, 3 do not divisible by 5, so you just write 3. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So you end up with a 3, 5, 3, 1, 4. So you multiply 3 times 5 times 3 times 1 times 4. You end up with a 180 as a LCD. One more time. Find the LCD of 6 and 8 and 9. 6, 8, and 9. 6 and 8 has even number, not 9. But you can just divide common factor by 2, which is common factor of 6 and 8. Divide 6 by 2 is 3. Divide 8 by 2 is 4. 9 doesn't go into 2, so just write 9 under it. And then 3 and 4 and 9, not all 3 has a common factor, but 3 and 9 has a common factor is a 3. So you divide by 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. 4 do not have a divisible by 3, so you just write as it is. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. So you end up with a 2, 3, 1, 4, 3. 2, 3, 1, 4, 3. So that end up with 72. Again, even though we did already, but what is LCD of 4 and 3, which do not have any common factor? Then just multiply each other. 1 times 4 times 3 is 12. Now here comes the exercise for finding LCD. So now try to find LCD on your own. Of this exercise and compare with the answer at the bottom of this particular section. Okay. So number 1, 8 and 6 has a common factor as 2, 4, and 3, and no more common factor. So you multiply 2 times 4 times 3, 24. So 8 and 6, LCD of 8 and 6 is 24. LCD of 6 and 12 is easy because 6 goes into 12 completely, and bigger number is 12, so LCD becomes 12. 14 and 10, you have to do 14 and 10, and both of them are even numbers, so you have a 2 as a common factor. 14 divided by 2 is 7, 10 divided by 2 is 5, no more common factor, so that becomes 2 times 5 times 7, which is 70. So 70 become LCD of 14 and 10. 16 and 12, and I'm going to use 4 and 16 and 12. Instead of 2, I'm going to use 4 as common factor because I know both of them has 4. So 16 divided by... let's try with the 2 first. So 16 divided by 2 is 8. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. You still have a common factor. So you do one more time. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And no more common factor. So LCD of that become 2 times, 2 times, because these are the one that you multiply. 4 times 3. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 3 is 48. So it's 48 is your LCD for 16 and 12, because 16 goes into 48 3 times. 12 goes into 48 4 times. Now, how about 4 and 12 and 18? Both of them, all three of them has 2 as a common factor. And then they have another 2 as a common factor. 2 and 6, not 9. So 9, just write it down. 1 and 3. And then 9, and not 1, but 3 and 9 has a common factor of 3. So you just write the 1 down. 3 goes to 3 once. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So that become 2 times, 2 times, 3 times 3, because 1 you don't have to write it. So you end up with 49. 36, sorry. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. And 4 times 9 is 36. So you end up with LCD as 36. Now, how about 6 and 8 and 24? The common one is again 2. So you divide all of that by 2. So 2 goes 6 3 times. 8 divided by 2 is 4 and 12. I'm going to use 4 this time. You can use 3 this time too, but I'm going to use bigger number 4. So 3, just write it down because 4 doesn't go into 3. 4 goes 4 once, 4 goes 3 times. Again, at least 2 of them. So previously, I used this 2 as a common factor. This one, I'm going to use this 3 as a common factor. 1, 1, 1. So you end up with 2 times 3 times 4 is 24. So 24 become least common denominator of 6, 8, and 24. Oh, I could do this. 6 goes into 24 and 8 goes into 24. And so it's a 24. I could have done that. Oh gosh. Okay. Okay. So this video was try to find the adding when you have a common denominator and finding LCD when you do not have a common denominator. So that's it for today. I'm going to continue this next video. Thank you. Be healthy and be safe.